Hey, what's up guys? So today we're going to be having a discussion video on can YuGiOh be fixed, and YuGiOh is kind of ruined with this one new card. And that one new card, well, it's Neuron Network. But I kind of want to go ahead and touch up upon a lot of the same feelings that a lot of people have in the YuGiOh community right now, and this really just stemmed from Megacaptial G's videos titled YuGiOh is Dead in 2020. There's also another video that I really enjoyed by Abysshire YGO that's her stating that she's upset with YuGiOh, and it's a rant video. But this is going to actually tackle a lot of the feels that a lot of the YuGiOh players and community feel as of right now, especially going into the future with this game with cards like Neuron Network that can make it as zero. So there is really a lack of interaction between a lot of duels. While there are some duels that can, of course, have this system where you're able to go ahead and make a board, your opponent breaks it, you can go ahead and play again. But a lot of duels, let's be honest here, are very, very one-sided, especially when someone is playing meta versus non-meta. I mean, look at this duel over here. He's starting, like, you know, a bunch of monsters. He's going to go and follow up with Imperial Order. So this guy that's sitting here thinking, oh, I've got Dark Ruler no more, I'm fine. He legitimately can't outplay this board because there's just no interaction, no matter how good the other player is. Sometimes you're just set up to lose, and that feels bad as a game, especially if you spend, you know, $1,000+ on your deck, your flight, your hotel to travel to your event, which we don't even have right now, to lose to just a Neuron Network as zero go ahead, and you cannot do anything. It feels very, very frustrating. Heck, if this Neuron player did happen to go first, which, you know, we'll go to game 2 over here, and guess what happens? He goes ahead and activates Terraforming, goes for the Neuron Network, and then he's going to go ahead and make S0. The guy happens to have Chalice in this instance, which really comes down to next format. Can you stop S0? No? Okay, well then you just give your opponent the handshake. He happens to have this generator field spell, which will then provide him with another generator monster plus the token, so he has enough negates anyways. The other player, spoiler, the guy that makes S0, he's going to be winning this one. And there's so many of these scenarios that will happen back to back to back where it just feels like there's a lack of interaction, but there's a lot more that we'll get into in this video. But I feel like a lot of players can just feel the same frustration with this format and the upcoming formats to the point where, like, they either want to go back to another format or just check out a completely new game, which is perfect for today's video sponsor. And this video is sponsored by Bushiroad with Vanguard Zero, based off the original card game Cards by Vanguard that has been running for 9 years and sold throughout the world, is now finally here with its new game. The game does have a story mode to teach you how to play the game in case any of you guys are not familiar with Cards by Vanguard. There is a story mode to go ahead and get you started, learn the new mechanics of this game, but there is a PvP mode available in case any of you guys do want to test your skills against some of the players. You can go ahead and do that as well. The game is very easy to pick up, but it will slowly introduce you to more in-depth mechanics like damage checks, new abilities, and triggers. Plus, you can unlock super powerful cards with cool abilities as you progress in the game. One of my favorites is the Shadow Paladins card. And the best part is, this game is completely free, so if you guys would like to check the download link in the description, download and start playing today. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and jump into the meat of the video with some just random gameplay that we'll have in the background, and we'll go and spectate a few different duels. So, like you said, it comes down to a lot of people in the YuGiOh community. There's so many people talking about the subject matter of YuGiOh being also ruined by one simple card. There's a great video by Cimo that says this card needs to get banned, and that is the S0. It's the exact card that I was talking about. Also, on MCole40's video, he mentions like True King of All Calamities. There's a lot of cards that basically facilitate the same idea, that basically one player does not get to play the game, and that's not fun. I mean, in this instance over here, sometimes Salamangreat will open up really good to the point where, like, you can't play either. And again, that's what makes a deck good, is either making it so your opponent cannot play or you're just immune and you just go ahead and go for a game with a lot of different cards. Heck, there's a lot of FTK variants with, of course, the Chaos stuff. But really what it comes down to is it feels like in YuGiOh compared to other games, there's like an early game, you have your early game cards, you have your mid game cards, and you have your end game cards, right? Where they would cost, let's say, more mana, for example. That's an easy relation that a lot of you guys will understand. But YuGiOh doesn't have that. You literally go from 0 to 100, and that's one thing that originally I liked with YuGiOh. You can make these powerful monsters a lot faster than you can in a lot of other card games. But there comes to a point where it's just enough. As YuGiOh is, we just keep on power creeping after power creeping, and like there's really no ceiling to the game, which is interesting with its power creep. Whereas Magic the Gathering, this is a video that I want to go ahead and actually point out. There's a video by Tolarian Community College, and it has Team APS Paul over there, and he basically talks to Tolarian, and they have a really good discussion. It's a very lengthy one, And I'll have all these videos pinned down below in case any of you guys do want to go and follow up on it. But what it really comes down to, and the reason why I really enjoyed that video, is it's explained in Magic the Gathering, they have their ceiling for their broken and OP cards, which is the legacy stuff that was basically banned or phased out. Whereas with Yu-Gi-Oh, we keep on just getting more and more broken cards, and on top of that, our previous stuff gets banned, which is something that does feel bad, and on top of that, we don't have older formats to go ahead and participate in to let us use some of these more broken cards, so it doesn't feel as bad when we have these hundreds of dollars of cards that simply just become almost worthless in a sense with their value. Whereas if they did support some of the older tournaments and playstyles, let's say GOAT and other formats, I think a lot more players would not only be inclined to continuously play Yu-Gi-Oh! So they wouldn't feel like it's as dead, because if they don't like this current format, and believe me, there's been formats where I basically skipped out on because there was some OP card, or it just wasn't fun to play, let's say in Frog FTK, right? If your opponent was playing that deck. And I totally get the idea that, I'm not a fan of this format, I'll come back, but why make those players leave? One thing that I think Magic the Gathering does that's pretty good is they do support these older formats. While we do have things like the Pegasus League, which has different rules, it's really not that supported in Yu-Gi-Oh! The only thing that's really supported is GOAT format, and that is really just by the community. I would like to see them support the older formats a lot more, and that would make Yu-Gi-Oh! Less dead for those players that simply don't want to engage in some of the either A, new mechanics, or B, if they just want to go ahead and play their older cards, and maybe they don't want to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on certain cards that they might require for their deck, like let's say Elder Lich, because that card's very pricey. You need multiples of a lot of the cards, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a pricey game at the end of the day, let's be honest here. But another thing I really wanted to touch upon that I think Abysshire did really good is basically explain that this game is not for kids. I mean, I've already kind of explained it, but she does a great job as well. And there's another thing that I want to touch upon for this is that with starter decks, if you are completely new to Yu-Gi-Oh, and I mean completely new, and you tell your parents, I need a starter deck, okay, you usually don't think to buy 3. It's just like, I want to start playing the game, I just buy 1. There's a lot of inconsistencies with the cards that are given, like you get 1 terraforming and 1 field spell in a starter deck. That doesn't really make sense. Starter deck should be able to be played just with buying 1. The reason why is because a player that's completely new to the game will not know to buy 3 unless they talk to a fellow veteran of Yu-Gi-Oh! And at the end of the day, that's just what it comes down to. When we have cards that are hundreds of dollars, simply kids cannot afford this. A parent's going to be like, what, you want to play Yu-Gi-Oh? Okay, here's like $10 or whatever, buy your starter deck. But then they're like, oh, I need 3. Oh, I need booster pack. Like, it's a very expensive game, and we don't have an alternative to go ahead and play online with, which is another thing I wanted to touch upon. We need an official Yu-Gi-Oh! Game so we can go ahead and play online with. I know there's EDO Pro, but to tell someone, oh, you want to play Yu-Gi-Oh? Oh, go to this like Discord site, then you have to download this third-party app, and then it will start downloading the pictures, and it's just, we need an official Yu-Gi-Oh! Game. Legacy of the Duelist should be the official game. Right now, with everything going on with remote duels, I just think we just need to make Legacy of the Duelist a game where we buy it once, we can unlock the packs by just playing the game, and make that an official game where we can use it in tournaments. We don't have to argue about rulings and stuff. I think it'd be excellent to go ahead and serve that as, again, a game that we can play officially. There is no official Yu-Gi-Oh! Game. We have to go on third-party sites, Dueling Book, EDO Pro, Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro. Like, we have to do other things to access the game. And I think for a younger audience, when someone says like, oh, wait, where do I go download Yu-Gi-Oh? Oh, well, you really got to go to this Discord. It seems too strange. We need an official Yu-Gi-Oh! Game. One easy way to bridge the gap between a digital card game and a physical card game is do what Pokemon does. You buy a physical pack, it's got a code, you enter in, and you can access a digital pack. That way, if you maybe want to get certain cards, you might have to buy the physical packs, and it has a special code that you enter in to get one specific card. I think that'd be a good bridge to kind of separate the gap between digital and physical, and to kind of have both players kind of play both, essentially, right? Another thing I want to talk about, which is by DarkKefka. He made a really good video, too, of why he quit Yu-Gi-Oh! And it really comes down to, we have these expensive cards, we buy them, and then they get reprinted, and then they get banned. It's just like a cycle of this game, and a lot of people that maybe are newer to the game, when they first hear that, like, okay, I spent several $100s on this card, and now it's banned, like... You go from a card that may be worth hundreds of dollars to a card that's worth like $5 or $10. And it is very disappointing, especially when we have no idea when the ban list is coming out. We got a rough estimate, but then you don't know what's being hit. One thing I think would really be good for the players is not only giving us what the ban list is going to be in advance, give us a few weeks, maybe a month or two to get rid of these cards. Still have maybe a tournament that uses some of those cards, but sometimes we're getting the new like set on that day and you can play it. And if any of you guys moving on to like a regionals or a big event, sometimes we're getting the set so early to the point where we don't even really have access to purchase some of the cards before the tournament, and then we have to go to the tournament and spend like hundreds of dollars on this like one card, and it just becomes just an absolute nightmare for the players. And I think that we need some better schedules for some of these releases, along with, of course, the ban list. Let us know ahead of time so we can get rid of these cards, or support the older formats so we don't have hundreds of dollars of cards that go to zero in value. And I think that would be really nice. I still think that one thing that would be nice also is not to have different TCG and OCG rulings. It's one card game. When we go to Worlds, we're using OCG rules. Just let the game have one set of rules so we don't have to argue about rulings, TCG, OCG. Make a website that we can go to, like the OCG has, where we can use official rulings and bring them up for anyone that is going to argue on like Dueling Book or just playing in general. When you're at like a local game store, it's frustrating to argue with someone because obviously you want your card to work the way it, should work, but sometimes someone will argue with you, and it is frustrating. We need an official site like the OCG so we can argue about rulings. The TCG knows about it, but they have no plans to actually implement it. This was posted, someone posted this on Zodiac Duelist, and then one person that works there, Julia, she actually mentioned that we have no plans for it. Why? I don't know. You can email them and get a ruling, but we can't have an official site. That way it's just public, so there's just no arguing. You don't have to email and be like, okay, next week I'll get back to you on that ruling, right? It's just frustrating. And especially with the TCG/OCG, I think we should all get cards about at the same time. And I know certain printings, of course, it can be difficult, especially nowadays with everything going on. But I think that we need to be able to get cards early enough to the point where we don't have to wait so long to the point where the card becomes irrelevant. Remember like chronomalies? Yeah, exactly. I think there needs to not be that much of a difference in timing and release windows. Also, with certain cards being randomly banned, I know that we haven't had this in a while, but you guys remember the Pepe? That was like, what, 2 weeks? So you sold us the product, and then in 2 weeks you banned it and made it basically unplayable. I mean, yeah, it was super OP and it should have been banned, but at the same time, we need to have a grace period on, like, when certain cards get released. I feel like that was like the real only E-ban list that we kind of had, which was kind of random. But at the same time, it's super disappointing, and it makes players hesitant on purchasing product when you have no idea when the next ban list is going to be taking place. Because again, it seems like it's kind of random, although we have a rough estimate. I really think that, again, with the whole Pepe thing, that was maybe a one-off. Maybe we won't ever get that again. But we need a little bit more security with this game, especially when we're spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on our game, which has no prize support, which is my next point that I wanted to go ahead and bring up. We need better prize support for this game, and I'm talking about the competitive level. You can't be a pro Yu-Gi-Oh player. The only way to really make it with Yu-Gi-Oh is really to either vend Yu-Gi-Oh cards or be a content creator to be able to sustain revenue from this game, because at the end of the day, we want better prize support at the end of the day, because I think that that makes people more incentive to go to these events, to go top, because at the point where this point, when you get clout, maybe you get a prize card that maybe is something that's going to be used. I think Minerva was the last one that we had that was like really, really good. But like Crush card was like the ultimate card, and like a lot of people felt like I couldn't play if I didn't have a Crush card. That card was OP. Obviously now it's not the same as it used to be, but I did want to go ahead and mention it. But again, going back to the format and other games being ruined just because of one card. Again, Cimo's video touches upon this. Robbie's video touches upon this. There are a lot of cards that we had in this game. Remember number 86, Narango? What about the Buster Blader little whelp card that locks your opponent out of the extra deck? True King of all calamities. There's always going to be these cards. And I think that we really need to stop these cards from coming out that just literally are one card, activate, and you just like win the game. I mean, remember when we had that set that had 6 cents that pretty much had nothing but 6 cents? And then it got banned. Like, it leads the players to feel very frustrated. It's like, okay, this new card comes out, let's go get it. It's broken. Okay, it's banned. Rip my wallet, right? You know some of these cards are going to get banned. This is one topic that was kind of mentioned in Abyshire's video, which was basically the card quality has gone down. Now, obviously with so many thousands and thousands of packs, this is one thing that I want to say that they should try to be able to fix, and this is not something that's intentional. Obviously, it's intentional when they release broken cards and then ban them. Like, they do that, and then you have to buy the new stuff, right? Because of power creep. But at the same time, this one, it really should be addressed. Like, literally, people are getting these out of the pack. I don't know what is going on with some of this, but people are getting cards that are super miscut. I mean, I guess sometimes this increases the value, but like, what the heck is this, man? Like, I don't know what's going on with some of these printings, but it's not even that. Some cards are literally coming out so damaged these days that they're considered marked cards, and you can't even use them. And again, her video goes more in depth with some of this stuff, but it is just wild with, some of the way that these cards are being printed. But speaking of prints, she also mentioned in her video that, like, we're getting reprints of stuff that we don't need. I don't think we need reprints of of Utopia. That card is so low in value that if we need Utopia, we can go ahead and get it out of Utopia for a couple cents. Whereas certain cards, they really need to be printed. Like Dragoons, the one card in the structure deck costs more than the entire structure deck itself, because obviously we're talking about at like launch when you can actually buy the structure deck. But certain cards that we need for like the Atlanteans, with the new Deep Sea Diva archetype that we'll be mixing in, we need Dragoons, and that card deserves a reprint, right? There's so many cards that need reprints that don't get a reprint, that aren't even really like, you know, $100 plus cards, but for those players that even want to play the newer stuff that just came out, you have to go buy the older stuff, which you have to get on the third, market anyways, right? Or the secondary market. You need to be able to print these cards at the same time when other things are coming out for some of the reprints. Hey, there's our card that locks them out of extra deck, right? But real talk, there is so many issues with this game, and I think that we can try to solve a little bit of them. Speaking of that, oh my gosh, I see Mr. Man, I get it, wrestled. But anyways, the game is still fun to play at certain older formats, and that's why I want to say supporting these older formats makes it so some of the players that are frustrated, don't want to play this format, they can play in those older formats, which again, they need some better prize support and supporting these other formats just like Magic the Gathering does, and I think that that is really good. Another thing I want to touch upon is have open communication with your players. Give us reasons why certain cards are going to exist or be on the ban list and what their direction is for the game versus kind of just like, you know what, you cannot comment, you can't like, dislike our videos. It's just kind of like a barrier, and it just feels like there's no open communication between us and the players, which is something that Magic the Gathering does do quite well, which was so awesome to hear when I watched the video by Tolarian that has Team APS over there. I really feel like we need a better communication with Konami, being able to understand their thought process and why they are doing certain things so we can get insight on where they want to take the game for that format. And I think it'd be really nice for us to be able to maybe vote like on the OCG. They have all these polls. Hey guys, we're thinking about making a new structure deck or starter deck. What do you guys want? I think that that is so awesome that they do that for the community. And on top of that, obviously the OCG, they have a lot better player feedback when it comes down to certain decks and the way that they are printing some of the cards, because with the TCG, a lot of times the best card, they're always secret rare in the set, and while that is cool that we get to have foil versions of some of our favorite cards, it's a very expensive card game, and at the end of the day, sometimes people, while they can't afford some of the cards, they just simply don't want to play. Therefore, you can still support them by having those older formats to keep them in the game, and at a later format, they might be able to go ahead and invest back into the game, or just have a digital version of the game, which I think will be more accessible for most players, because I think it's very difficult to tell a new player, hey, if you want to take this game seriously, you need to spend a few $1,000s every few months on the next best deck, because at the end of the day, some of these cards are several $100s, and some people will be simply unable to play due to the price of the game. Especially at a younger audience, it's hard to convince, a parental that will have to be spending this money. And then on top of that, if you were telling your parents, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on my deck, and in a couple months it'll be banned, and you need to buy me a whole nother set, they're gonna be like, no, you're not playing that game. And I think that there's a real disconnect between the players that they're trying to hit as far as the demographic with some of the anime and stuff like that, versus the actual people that are playing the game. And so I think that to really sum it up and how to fix Yu-Gi-Oh! Support the older formats, have better price support. In terms of the whole non-interaction, some people do enjoy it. That's kind of a subjective thing, but I want to say a lot of people don't like the non-interaction games. But again, supporting older formats and different formats would maybe allow some of those players that don't enjoy that to play that. And the players that do enjoy that, you still have, I guess, the current format or the way that the game is oriented. And that way, when the cards are hit, it won't be that big of a blow because you can still play some of your favorite cards. But anyways, guys, would love to know your thoughts on any of these down below, because I think it is a really good subject matter, and I think that in the future, this game can maybe get to a point where it is more enjoyable for a majority of the players with these different ways to play. While we do happen to have, like, let's say, speed duels, I would say that, at least from my experience at locals, no one's really playing the speed duels. They are more interested in the regular card game, but we'll have to wait and see where they take this game in the future, but I think that that could be a step in the right direction. But I'd love to know how you guys think that we can fix Yu-Gi-Oh! For the players that especially are not interested in the 50 negates and non-interaction, because I feel like I would personally just like to get rid of any card that says your opponent cannot activate cards, but at the same time there are people that like that, so keep that in mind as well. But hopefully the comment section won't get too crazy. I just suggest you guys try to respect each other and realize that everyone likes a different game. But anyways, comment down below how you guys feel about thanks for tuning, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like on it. If you're new here, hit subscribe, turn on that bell to see more Yu-Gi-Oh discussions like this in the future. And I'll catch you in the next video. Have a good one. I'm signing out. And make sure you guys go and check out the game down below if you guys would like to go and download. Try out a new game. I like to do that once in a while too. And I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.